So welcome everyone. I am Kristen O'Keefe. I will be presenting today. I'm excited to see such a wonderful group of people, and it was really inspiring listening to Dan Meyer about how awful math is, but hopefully if you're in this room, you kind of have a little bit of a different opinion. And if you don't yet, we'll talk about some activities that have some low floor, high ceilings that will hopefully get your students thinking about math in a little bit more of a puzzly, fun, building number sense way. And Mike, before we get started, could you go ahead and make Carrie Hare a co-host as well?
Okay, let me do that.
Okay, great. She's going to go ahead and drop some links into the chat. And while she is doing that, since I am with Northwest RPDP, I do ask you to just fill out a quick attendance sheet. It's just your name, just so we can make sure we collect that data. Perry is going to go ahead and drop that into the chat. I'm going to rename myself. And once I get myself renamed, then I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and we'll get started.
So you can find a digital note taker in the chat that guides you through the PowerPoint and also an attendance link. And if you have any questions, let me know.
And Mike, you have disabled participant sharing. Is there a way you can enable that while we are?
Okay, let me see if I can do that. Participant sharing. Mm-hmm.
And so if you go to share screen, it's a little arrow at the bottom. If you click on that, you should be able to enable participants to share their screen.
Thank you. Multiple participants share at a time, or?
Yeah, go ahead and do that. And if anyone wants to hijack my presentation, go for it.
Okay, and then.
All right, I am good to go. I see my screen right here. Let me make sure I can share sound.
Okay.
All right, and if you could just give me a thumbs up if you see a screen that says building number sense 5 minutes at a time on the screen. Okay, we are good to go. So once again, my name is Kristen O'Keefe, and I am working with Northwest Regional Professional Development. Today's session is a great session because it's just some quick little things that you can take back to your classroom to help build number sense. So everything that I am showing you is free. They're resources that are through online. Some of them, you may have some options that you can pay to get some more extended resources, but these are pretty easy. They do work for students that are in elementary school all the way through middle school. There's actually some with high school. This session is focusing more on K through 8. So I'm going to start with which one doesn't belong. So taking a look at this screen, which one of these numbers doesn't belong? And you can just do A, B, C, or D. Go ahead and drop it in the chat. Okay, beautiful. So I'm really excited that there's a lot of participants here. My intent was to have people come off of mute and explain which one doesn't belong. But this is one of those that I wanted to throw at the very beginning because it's one that's been around for quite a while and it's such a great resource. It does pull away. I know Dan Meyer had mentioned math has that one correct answer, but when we start to pull in which one doesn't belong, we actually start to live in the world of understanding number relationships and how we can justify which one doesn't belong. So my guess is if you said A doesn't belong, it's because it's a 3-digit number. If you said B doesn't belong, it's because it's an odd number. And then you can go into C and D. And D is always that one that everybody gets excited when they figure it out. So if you figured out D, awesome. If you haven't yet, kind of think about that as we move forward. All right, so on a scale of cat, how are you feeling today? I'm hoping it's a 3 or a 6, but it is Saturday morning and we are going into a 2-day week, maybe 3-day if you are outside of some districts. So we're going to start with watching a quick video, and this is Kid Snippets.
I think it's already starting. Okay, here's your homework. First let me tell you the directions. What's 4 take away 5? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Take away. What's 6 take away 1? 1. No, you take away, so you take away 1 out of 6. How much does it equal? What's 10 minus 1? I don't know. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Nope. Take away 1. How much is this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Nope. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And 8 and 1 more. And add 1 more. How many does it equal? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1. It makes 9. See how you take away? You take away 1 and it equals 1. Do you get it now? Yes.
Okay, I love that video because we've all experienced that as an educator, even as a student. There has been times when I've hit that math wall and I'm like, okay, I'm just going to say yes and nod and get it and move on. But really what we want to do is build that number sense so we don't have as many times as that in our class. So what is number sense and why is it important? So the construct of number sense refers to like a student's or a child's fluidity and flexibility with numbers. So it helps students understand what numbers mean, and it improves their performance of mental math. And it gives them the tools to look at math in the outside world, make comparisons, find structure within it. So as we start to move forward, I looked and did a little bit of research on what is number sense since I was putting this together. And I found a plethora of number sense, and some went one way, some went the other way, but I wanted to go back to just good old Van de Waal and his colleagues' work in teaching student-centered mathematics. So he says that number sense really kind of falls into 4 categories. So our 4 categories are spatial relationships, and this is one that I really love because there is so much research coming out now that spatial reasoning and spatial thinking really is the foundation and builds up the numbers.
For 50 years.
The next one is just understanding structures. So one more, one less, and then making benchmarks in that part whole. So with that being said, those are really kind of living in that elementary world. But if they haven't developed that number understanding, that up and under, making 10, going up and over that regrouping, they are going to start to struggle when we start getting into decimals or proportional reasoning or fractions. Okay, so what does good number sense looks like? Good number sense, it really is when students are able to manipulate numbers to make calculations easier. It gives them the confidence to be flexible in their approach with solving problems. And I'm going to say that again. Number sense helps students be flexible and brave when attacking problems. So this is where number sense really is powerful. Students that do not have strong number sense yet, they tend to go to that procedure when they're solving a problem instead of thinking creatively, and then they will sometimes just go to those immature number calculations that are inefficient. For example, if we are doing repeated addition, someone with not strong number sense, when we get to multi-digit, they might try to add 156 75 times. Whereas that student with number sense has that place value understanding. So we can move them forward into those partial products, which makes it a lot easier and accessible for them. So we also know that students that have strong number sense and children that have strong number sense enjoy playing and exploring with numbers. And they think of beautiful strategies. They can invent those strategies. They can find most efficient solutions when they are digging into problems that they may not know how to solve yet. And I love earlier in the presentation during Dan Meyer, someone had actually brought up some Asian countries and how they approach problem solving. And it really does start to support that idea of number sense and just being creative with numbers when we approach problem solving. So now that we kind of have that background on number sense, what does it look like? Remember, I'm going to say this and I'm going to say it really loud and slow. Flexibility is key. So flexibility is key. How can we break those numbers apart, put them together, see them in different lights, using spatial thinking and reasoning as we're developing number sense. So I'm going to go ahead and show you a couple of different programs that I have been showed by educators that I've worked with that I think are really powerful in building number sense. So this is Splat. This is from Steve Wyborny. Some of you may have visited his website. He's got a lot of great resources. We're going to dig into two of them today. So Splat is basically dot talks meets part whole. And so what I'm going to ask you to do right now is take a look and how many blue shapes do you see? And just drop that number into the chat. Okay, so it looks like we have a consensus of 5. Yes, there's 5 blue shapes here. And this is what I saw a teacher do, and I really loved it. Her students were so excited. She had them count 1, 2, 3, and they all said splat together. So let's do that. Ready? 1, 2, 3, splat. Oh no! How many shapes are under the splat, and how do you know? And this is a great opportunity to have your students turn and talk and have that conversation. How many shapes are under the splat and how do you know? And this is where we start to get into the meat of number sense. How else could you know that there are a certain number of blue shapes under the splat? Okay, so now let's look under the splat and see how many shapes there are. And I always have my students do a silent drum roll. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. Ready, everyone? Silent drum roll. Da, 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 da. 3, perfect. And once again, I really do encourage during this time to have students have that turn and talk conversation. The reason I shared Splat with you is because this is a free resource. What you do is you go to stevewyborny.com. The link is in your digital note taker that Carrie dropped into the chat earlier today. And it's a PowerPoint, and he's got a ton of PowerPoints that you can download. Each of the PowerPoints has multiple splats in it. So I believe there's like 3 to 4 in each one. So you can do 1 a day if you would like to go through 2 or 3 as you start to develop the procedure and the students understand the structure of Splat. You can get through more in a day. But the one reason I wanted to share this with you is because there's so many different variations of Splat. So now we're going to look at this one. How many blue shapes do you see? And go ahead and drop that into the chat. If you'd like, you can have a conversation. If you are familiar with Joe Bowler's work in Dot Talks, you can talk about how do they see the splats? Are they subitizing conceptually, like grouping groups of 4 and then adding on a couple? But it looks like we have a consensus of 14. Ready? Let's go ahead and splat on 3. 1, 2, 3, splat. Oh no, 3 splats. So with Steve Wyborny's splat, if the splats are the same color, they're all black, that means we have the same number of dots under each splat. So I'm going to ask you that same question. How many blue shapes are under each splat? And how do you know? And then how else could you know? And go ahead, and if you have an idea, drop that into the chat. Okay, 4. We have 4 dots under each splat. Now, once we have this down, once again, I'm going to reiterate, having those conversations, those students turning and talking. One thing that I didn't mention earlier is making sure that our students see not just themselves as math doers, but their peers as math doers. So when we might share out like the number of dots at the very beginning, calling that student that sometimes might be hesitant to share out is a great way for them to see themselves as a math doer and for their classmates to see them as a math doer. So the reason I like multiple splats is it really starts to move into 3rd grade multi-step word problems, as well as expressions and equations in middle school. So we can actually have our middle school students start to do this activity. It's very visual, low floor, high ceiling, but now we can move them forward into creating that expression with variables. So 3x plus 2 equals 14. We can also have our 3rd graders look at this and maybe try to create a word problem. And it could be as simple as using splat as a word problem, because that's where they're starting to get introduced into these multi-step problems. And in order to solve this splat, you have to take a multi-step approach. Okay, I'm going to show you one more splat. And yes, we can do fractions. So instead of saying blue shapes, I'm going to say what number is represented here if a blue circle is 1. So go ahead and drop in the chat what numbers are represented here if a blue shape or circle represents 1. Okay, and 5. Fantastic. And here we go. Splat. I'm going to ask you the same question. What number is represented under the splat? What number is represented under the splat? All right, and if you said 2 2/3, you've got it. Now, one thing that I would mention with splat and fractions, there are options you can do. If you want to move it beyond a number sense activity and we're doing some conceptual building, you might want to give students some manipulatives to use as they're going through this, some area models of fractions. But if we're starting to move into adding and subtracting fractions, they can certainly start to do this a little bit more mentally. But once again, I do want to caution you, this is a part whole with fractions. So we're starting to move into 4th and 5th grade. So 3rd grade, maybe if they're supplied manipulatives, would be something you would want to do. Definitely as we're moving up into 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th grade, where we're starting to just really kind of visualize those fractions. So that is splat. And now we're going to move into open middle. And so here's what I would like to do. And I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen for, actually, I'm not going to stop sharing yet. I'm going to stop sharing in a moment. So open middle is Robert Kaplinski. And this is a program that is fabulous because it's a very non-routine approach. One thing that I really like about this number sense activity is not only are we building number sense because they have to adjust as they're solving the open middle problems, they have to use number sense in order to figure out how they're going to adjust. So essentially, whoops, sorry, I'm going to go back. Essentially, what I'm going to ask you to do is use the digits 1 through 9 exactly 1 time to create an equation that is more than 700. And then next, try to create an equation that is less than 700. And once you solve that, I'm going to give you about 3 minutes to play around with this. Once you solve it, go ahead and drop that into the chat. And I am going to stop sharing my screen during this time. And Mike, I was originally going to put them into breakout rooms, but I think we have quite a few participants that we would have really large breakout rooms. So what I'd like to do right now with the participants is I'm going to actually share a Jamboard. There are 17 slides on this Jamboard. So even if we did 17 rooms, we would still have, gosh, actually, is it possible to do 17 rooms?
Yeah, let me see.
And Carrie, it looks like she's saying yes.
Yes, there is.
17.
Okay. Beautiful. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to have you go into breakout rooms and participate in a different Jamboard. Okay. And this one's a multiplication Jamboard. So your breakout room will say breakout room 1, breakout room 2, breakout room 3. And on that Jamboard, you're going to go to that particular slide. So Carrie has dropped that Jamboard into the chat. Let's go ahead and open up breakout rooms for 5 minutes. And as you go into your breakout room, open up that Jamboard. Mike has enabled sharing. So if one of you would like to share the screen, you certainly can.
Broadcast.
The Jamboard link isn't working.
It is not working? Okay, let me open it up and see.
And I can work on that too.
Middle.
Oh, I see why it was on a second page. So let me do this a little bit.
Copy link.
Working, thank you.
Okay, beautiful, thank you. Okay, we will see you back at about 9:49.
Okay.
All right, Mike, is there anything that you want to share with me? Like talk slower?
No, you're fine. I think when you talk faster, it gives the enthusiasm.
Okay.
But like there was a room that they say that the Jamboard isn't working. So
Okay. Let's Carrie, can you broadcast a message
Yes.
to all the breakout rooms with the link just so that they can have that as well?
Got it.
Okay, thank you. And then can you also broadcast 2 minutes?
okay.
So Christy, I like number 3.
Okay.
Post-its.
Oh,
Number
perfect.
7 or 6 also made post-its. So 3 and 6, those are some good ones.
Ours didn't, I'm sorry, our Jamboard did not work in room 1, I believe.
Okay.
Also
okay.
in room 4.
I'm going to send out the message again.
Actually, it's okay. Go ahead and close the breakout rooms, and I'm going to go ahead and share this screen, and we will so I apologize. There were 2 Jamboard links that went out. The second one worked. So if yours didn't work, I apologize. I am going to show you what one group did, which was brilliant.
Hi, so in our breakout, we didn't get the Jamboard. We were not productive.
We didn't either.
Okay. All right. So I apologize if your Jamboard didn't work. We had a couple links that went out. The first one didn't work. The second one did work. I thought I would like had all my ducks in a row, and I had checked all the links, but I didn't check the one on the link sheet that I sent to our co-host. So with that being said, I guarantee it wasn't productive, even if it wasn't a conversation about open middle. I'm sure you had educator conversations where you got to bounce ideas off of each other, maybe even talking about SWAT as well. So I'm going to share my screen. I want to share one of the Jamboard screens because I love that this person or this group actually created post-its and was able to shift it around, because it does lead very nicely into how to use the site and how to navigate it. So right here they have 27 times 34, 918. Beautiful. I'm going to give you a big heart. With that being said, I like this one because a couple of things. It does start to build fluency in a very authentic, natural way because they're playing around with numbers. It also starts to build that number sense because they have to adjust number to see, ooh, can I make this number bigger? What would I need to do? What number would I need to change out with which number to create this? You guys, I don't know. I think you might have done it. 918 is a pretty high product there. So with that being said, I do want to show you how to navigate. Yes. Oh my gosh, Carrie, thank you for pointing out. These are a lot like Mary Cook. If you've been around for a while, she has some great resources as well that you can find. I am going to show you how to navigate the site because this site does have a plethora of resources and it does go through all different operations, all different grade levels. And it looks like okay, so when we get to the site, it's open middle. At the top, we have kindergarten, first grade, second grade, third grade, all the way through fifth. I opened up fifth grade, and then we get into those strands. Numbers, operations, base 10, we get into fractions. Once you get there, you click on which one you'd like to do. I did fifth grade, numbers and operations. And then this is where all of those activities are. And it's set up very similar to what you saw on your Jamboard. If I click the very first one, it's going to give us this problem. I didn't click the hint. I will tell you, if you'd like hints, a lot of them are teachers or educators going in and just writing down the answer and saying how this is the answer. So it's almost like a little chat or a blog that goes through in there. So that's basically how you get it. I'm going to go up one more time because I do want to highlight that there are high school ones all the way through middle school. With this, and since we are building number sense and we are talking about starting with that low floor and building a structure, I would start with some of the easier ones and then work your way up. That's just my suggestion. I found that successful with my students. That way everyone felt like they had that entry point and learned it and started to build that number sense before we start getting more complex. Okay, it also has support resources, and this is really where that Marcy Cook comes out. We have the first attempt. What did you learn from this attempt? How will your strategy help you in your next attempt? So they're really taking that metacognitive approach as they go through this activity. And then there's also a printed form of digits where they can actually use concrete digits. Right? They're concrete, but they're abstract because they're numbers, but they can move them around as well. So I really like those resources as well. So the next place I'm going to take us is to Estimysteries. And I have a 2 there because this is actually the second resource that I'm going to show you from Steve Wyborny's site. And Estimysteries is basically estimation. And we know that students who have strong estimation skills, that stems from their ability and their number sense. So we are going to go ahead and go through buttons, blue and yellow too. So how many buttons are, whoops, sorry. How many buttons are in the glass? And if you've ever done estimation, and I know Dan Meyer brought this up in his keynote, is you can make an estimation that's too high, make an estimation that's too low, make an estimation that you think is just right. And once again, we're starting to build that number sense there. Okay, so with Estimysteries, we're actually going to give you some clues. And as the clues appear, you're going to narrow the possibilities to a smaller set. Once again, that turn and talk as we're going through the clues really gives students that opportunity to have those conversations with why they are adjusting. So what I'd like you to do is in the chat, drop in an estimation. How many buttons do you think are in the class? All right, so now I'm going to give you a clue. The answer is between 40 and 100. So some of you may want to modify your clue now that you've been, or modify your estimate now that you've been given a clue. Once again, that turn and talk, I changed my estimate because 37 is less than 40, or I'm keeping my estimate the same because my original estimate was between 40 and 100. One other thing that I would like to highlight is having students maybe do this on a whiteboard or on a piece of paper and keep all of their estimates in a row as we go through the clues so they can see how they were able to revise their thinking. Okay, so now clue number 2, the answer is an odd number. So go ahead and take a moment, and if you'd like to revise your estimate, you certainly can, and drop that into the chat. Okay, clue number 3. The answer does not include the digit 5 or 6. So now we've brought in some academic vocabulary, odd, and digits, in addition to building number sense through estimation. Okay, clue number 4, the answer does not include the digits 7 or 8. Okay, so now go ahead and drop in your estimate. All right, and here's our final clue. The digit in the ones place is a 9. The digit in the ones place is a 9. Okay, after seeing all the clues, you've narrowed the possibilities to a small set of number, but before you see the final answer, go ahead and write down your final estimate and explain to them why they chose that number. During this time, I think it's really important to keep those clues. Whoops. Oh no, I was going the wrong way. to keep those clues up on the board so that they actually have that to use as their evidence as they're explaining to their peer why they made that estimate and how that estimate that they made met the criteria. So once again, I always do the silent drum roll. So silent drum roll, and you probably saw it before, but it's 99 buttons. So with that being said, Steve Liborni, once again, has this set up very similar to Splat, where you go to a site, you download the PowerPoint, and the PowerPoint is set up exactly the way that I have it in this presentation. Okay, so what I'd like to do is for the next 5 minutes, just go over a couple of other sites that are worth checking out. So which one doesn't belong? Growing patterns, and then estimation 180. So which one doesn't belong? There actually is a site. There is a link in your digital note taker for which one doesn't belong. But I will also let you know that most of the which one doesn't belong that I use, I go to Google, which one doesn't belong, screenshot it, and then use it that way. I've also heard from some other educators that they are starting to branch out into other subject areas for which one doesn't belong. I haven't looked into that yet, but it was very exciting to me. So what I'd like you to do right now is in the chat, which one doesn't belong, and just a quick reason why. Which one doesn't belong and why? All right, and Carrie, do you mind reading some of the chat responses?
Yes, they're coming in very fast. The nickel because
Okay.
all the other coins are brass. Bottom left is only 1 cent. The nickel because of the color. The single penny, 1 penny doesn't equal 5 cents.
Beautiful. Thank you. Yes, and
nickel.
This is one of those activities that I love to use with students, because once they realize that it's about the justification, they actually can just justify which one doesn't belong for many different reasons. With the little guys, and I would even venture to say middle schoolers, you can switch which one doesn't belong into 4 corners. So you have an A, B, and a C, and a D corner, so they get up and they move around, because we know our students need to get up and get some of that energy out. They can have conversations with the people in their corner to talk about why it doesn't belong with someone that has the same reasoning as them. And then they can branch out and find somebody else from another corner and try to convince them to come to their side. There's so many different ways to pull this in and have that fabulous math conversation. So that's which one doesn't belong. Another one is visual patterns. So visual patterns is, I chose the dogs because puppies are very cute. Visual patterns is one of those where we're actually starting to find structure within a visual pattern. Once we bring pictures in and we take numbers out, a lot of those students who have that idea that they're not a math person yet, then they're like, okay, I can do pictures. This can be a quick conversation if we want to just talk about with younger guys, which one is in figure 5, which one's in figure 6, which one's in figure 10. But then you can really move it forward, since this is focusing on 5 to 10 minutes of number sense building. That's kind of where we're going to live. But if you really want to make it meaty, you can start doing some in and out tables. You can start creating some functions and figuring out how many puppies are in step 43. And this one is 85. So whatever way you'd like to create that, you're going to find so many different paths that students will take to get to that number. Once again, I really highly encourage using this with middle school students, because I think that this really does help them set up that function table in a different way instead of just using numbers. The next one is estimation 180. Now, this one's very similar to estimistries in some ways because we are working on estimation skills, but this one has a little bit of a different focus. This one focuses more on using benchmarks to make estimations. So for example, day 8, and this is one that I use because I figure we're heading right into cold season, right? So a pack of tissues. So the first estimate we're gonna have students do is that little tiny pocket pack. So how many tissues are in there? And once again, like Dan had mentioned in the keynote, how many is too much? How many is too few? What do you think is just right? This is day 8, 9, and 10. I personally have sandwiched these into a one day. So we are using benchmarks within that same day. Then we go to day 9. Now that we figured out there's 12 tissues in this pocket pack, how many tissues are in this cube rectangular prism of tissues? So now, once again, we have a benchmark here to help us make this estimate here. And then day 10, now this one, we can actually go right into computation, or we could stick with estimation with finding a friendly number. So this cube right here is, I believe this one right here. And this is another one where there are 12 packs of tissues. So some students will just want to estimate. Some students will actually want to get right down to the exact number of tissues. I found that more actually want to get to the exact number of tissues. And then when we reveal, there is a huge celebration. This is great to do with partners. Once again, I've said this a gazillion times, but having them turn and talk and have that conversation with their peers is very powerful. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to send you guys to breakout rooms for about 4 minutes. And during this time, I want you to have a conversation with the people in your breakout room. What are some quick activities that you use to build number sense in your classroom? And then what is something that you took away from the conversation you're having in the breakout room or the presentation from today that you might want to try in your class in the next week or the next month, since we are heading into this time of the year where their weeks are kind of off depending on the holidays that we have. So I'm going to go ahead and stop share. We've got 4 minutes in breakout rooms. Once again, Carrie's going to drop in the chat those 2 questions. What are some quick number sense routines that you use in your classroom? And then what is something you would like to try in your class next week? So 4 minutes. We'll see you back here at 10:11. All right, so we're good, Carrie?
Yeah, sorry. Someone's having an issue with the digital note taker, so I'm trying to privately email a copy of it through Word. So I'm kind of doing 2 things at once. Yeah, everything's going good. I'm trying to keep track of the questions in chat. They're good. I was going to post the links to the 3 that you just showed, but I'll wait till they come back from the breakout rooms.
Okay.
Or I'll just do that right now and then work on the issue with her not getting the digital note taker.
Yeah, and if you get her email, we can. Did you share? You can just share it with her too, if you'd like.
Okay.
As a viewer, if you share it with her as a viewer, she can make a copy.
Okay.
For herself that she can edit in. Okay, perfect. Wow, there's a lot going on. I know there's a lot going on. Yes, it kind of switched. I hope I'm helping you a little bit. And I totally missed. Oh my God, you're helping so much. I'm so sorry about that one link. It went to another page on mine. So I only copied from the one page and didn't realize it continued on to the next page. We should, you know what, in the link in the digital note taker. So if someone had the digital note taker, I didn't even think about that. We could have had them open it up from there.
I got kicked out.
Oh no. Welcome back, Vivian. Okay, so if you'd like to go back to your breakout room, if you click on breakout rooms, the
Yes,
little
I see
square at
it.
the bottom, it'll give you the option to go back.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So Mike, as far as attendance, the attendance link, do you drop that in there, or should I mention the attendance link for the conference since they are two different?
I can drop it like
Okay.
before.
Okay, perfect. Because I want to make sure there's not confusion on whether they are doing attendance for the conference versus for RPDP.
That's right. I just dropped it right now.
Okay, fantastic.
So I put like TL conference attendance and then survey link. That's for them if they wanted to get a certificate.
Okay, perfect. Carrie, can you broadcast 2 minutes?
Yes.
Thank you. Oh, okay. Note to self, Vivian, thanks for letting me know about that. I will be trying to troubleshoot.
Yeah,
Appreciate
sorry.
that.
I don't know what happens. It's froze the last 2 times you tried to send me. I got in the last time, but couldn't turn my camera on, couldn't turn the audio on. Nothing.
You know, here's a suggestion. Sometimes when the bandwidth is a little off, I mean, not that I ever encourage people to turn their video off, but if you turn your video off, sometimes it fixes that. Just for future. I don't know if other sessions are going to send you into breakout rooms or not, but maybe video off, then head to breakout room, and then turn it back on when you come back.
Yeah, I'll try that out. I'm on my tablet, so I'm trying to get back into the breakout room right now, but I'm not seeing an option for it.
Actually, we just closed breakout room, so your
okay.
timing to come back was beautiful.
Okay,
Okay, so what I really love to do during this time is have anyone share out something that they had or a conversation they had in a breakout room that you think is worth sharing with the rest of the participants. So does anyone have anything they would like to share or a great idea that they heard from their co-breakout room colleague? Okay, yes, I see a hand raised. Kristen, go ahead and unmute yourself.
Got it. Did I get it? Okay. So I taught I'm a math specialist now when I do intervention and coaching, but I taught middle school math. And even before I did this intervention, I've noticed something for those of you who are going to be teaching fractions, that splat with the dots, if you could talk about fractions of sets and what fraction of the original set is hidden or visible. So they start getting the concept of fractions of sets and not just fractions of a whole. Because we do a lot with drawing and representing fractions of a square or a circle, but we don't, I think, do enough of representing fractions of a set. So I think like asking them, like in your 3rd grade class, what fraction of that original set can we see? How do we write that as a fraction? How do we discuss it as a fraction? Would be so powerful with that splat tool.
Yeah, I love that. And I love that you brought that up because we do model fractions with area models and length models, but very rarely in set models. When we do sets, it tends to go towards multiplication and division with the set. So thank you. That is a fabulous idea. All right. So for the sake of time, we are going to go ahead and start to wrap this up because we got to get the next presenter in here and get them ready. 2 things before we leave. The first, Mike in the chat, it's just a few up. He has the attendance for the Teaching and Learning Conference. So that is something that you want to do in addition to the one that I did for RPDP. Also, there will be a forms Oh, and he dropped it in there again. Then we have one more super, super quick survey, and this is for RPDP. It's like 5 questions, just a 1 through 5. If you could take a moment to fill that out as well, that would be fabulous. The title of this session is Nevada Teaching and Learning Conference Math, and we're going to put that as math. And thank you, thank you, thank you. I really appreciate how actively involved everybody was. I hope you were able to take something away. And I stuck with the cat theme. And I hope you have a fabulous Thanksgiving and holiday. And if you have any questions, shoot me an email. If you drop it into the chat, I've got about 30 seconds left that I can answer a question that's in the chat.
Yeah.
And yes.
Whoever made this form up, they don't have Clark County on there as an option, so I have to type it in every time.
Oh no.
They don't
Okay.
have Nye County. How many of us here from Clark County? Probably a lot.
No.
We don't have Nye County either.
Yeah, it's
Okay,
crazy. I mean, there aren't that many counties.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll type it in, but it's just hilarious to me.
Okay, so this is for Northwest RPDP. So please type in that county, because anyone that attends this, I will share with Southern Nevada RPDP, because we want to make sure that they are able to track participants in that area as well. So I will make sure I let my boss know that it might be worth putting all 17 counties in there, so that and then we can maybe put that as a second one. So thank you for bringing that up.
Can you repeat the title of the training?
Yes, it's Nevada Teaching and Learning Conference Math.
Okay.
So we just put math in it.
Just put it in the chat.
Oh, perfect. All right, and you are free to go. So thank you.
Sorry.
I hope you got
room is this?
Oh, and I'm going to go ahead and head over to the next conference room. And once again, shoot me an email if you have any questions, and I will be more than happy to help.
Thank you very much for coming to session number 1 in room 2. This is this is Mike in behalf of NDE.
Thank you. It was very informative. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Guys.
Thank you.
Oh. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Christine and Carrie.
Thank you, Mike. It was good seeing you.
Yeah. Same here.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and sign off and head over into my next room.